You're going to love working with a twin needle or double needle on the Viking Designer Epic. And the reason why is because it will make sure that you never break a needle or pick a stitch that it can't be used with. So first off, with double needles, there are sizes. So for example, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 on the packages, and that's the distance between the needle. So the one I actually am going to use today is 2.0. So before I even put it on, let's go to the settings and tell the machine that you're going to be using a needle that's wider than the foot, so it doesn't accidentally break. Come down to where it says Stitch Limiting Options, and let's go ahead and touch 2. When you do that, you're going to notice that your stitches will show up doubled. So very quickly you can step around, isn't that neat? Step around the machine and see what the stitch is going to look like before you even sew. So let me show you a couple things that you want to do for working with a double needle. So let's go ahead, take our screwdriver and take out our single needle, put in our double. We know that if we stitched really at any time, it's been limited. So for example, remember your stitch width is 7 millimeters wide. Look at what it's showing. It says that it's 5 millimeters wide. You can make it smaller, but you can't make it bigger because the needle has been put on, and 7 minus 2 millimeters is 5. So everything's been narrowed down for you. Now the next thing is we need to thread the machine. There's a special way to thread for a twin needle. And let's go ahead and put our second spool of thread up top. And I usually get this started together, and then that way you can see what we're working with. So I'm going to put in both threads in my hand, start with the first guide around the back, and then pause right here. So before you come down in the tension area, I want you to take the 2 threads and separate them. Now you kind of notice there's a fin in there. The fin actually is, you can put 1 thread on the right side and 1 on the left, and then each thread is going to get its own equal amount of tension. So remember how we floss? Do the exact same thing. We're holding at the top, and then we're holding at the bottom, and then continue to thread the last guide on your own. But now the needle threader, you can't use the needle threader because it's set for center and there's no needle in the center. So you will need to manually thread the needles yourself, and it doesn't matter which thread goes in which needle. So just pick one for the right, one for the left. A handheld needle threader is great. If you have a Viking serger, you might actually have one that came with that. A little trick. If you lick your finger and slide it down the back of the needle, that can help kind of pull that thread through the eye. Yes, it does. I know that's a fun little trick. Okay, so we're going to just take those threads through to the back. Let's start with a straight stitch. Maybe start sewing at just a more reduced speed. You can kind of hear immediately if for any reason you don't have something threaded correctly. Everything sounds good. So let's talk about what you use a twin needle for, and then we'll head over to some decorative stitches. So you notice by even this package, you see them used for pin tucks, decorative stitches. You can even simulate that double row of stitching on the bottom of a t-shirt or sweatshirt. But if you know me, you know I like to use them for decorative work. So all of a sudden, we see stitches that can be stitched. And again, depending on your thread choice, you could take all your stitches in this machine, sew them out with a single needle, and then turn around and sew them out with a double needle, and of different sizes. Let me show you when I get a little sampling here. All right, you can use your selective thread cutter, so don't be afraid to use that. It will cut because it's cutting all the threads at once. Look at this. Now, I mentioned that you really have a visual sense of what the stitch is going to look like. Let's pretend that we went back to those temporary settings and we told it we're putting a 4.0 double needle. Remember, our width was 7, so 7 minus 4 is 3 millimeters. And now those stitches are more running parallel to each other. They don't interlock and kind of create that secondary stitch. So as we pick those stitches, you get fun looks, but I have to tell you, my most favorite is when you use a little bit narrower double needle and then pick your stitches from there. So see how they run real parallel? So I would say if we just come back, use a 1.6 or 2.0 double needle as a choice. See the difference in the stitch? Now, there are stitches that I might recommend that you avoid. For example, in your menu B, These are very heavy, heavy stitches. And if you've sewn them, you know what I'm talking about. Remember your stitch book? It's always a good idea to stitch out all your stitches, and then you will know that when you sew with a double needle, there is going to be so much thread, it might actually pile up, and then you're going to have a mess. So stitches that are more open are going to be a great choice for your double needle or twin needle look. There's going to be some that they might look okay, but if there's any satin stitching, they tend to kind of be on top of each other. It's going to be kind of a blob. So again, choose your stitches. Oh, and even some might even tell you not recommended, but there's definitely going to be some stitches that you're going to love when you do it with a twin needle. If you turn your machine off and on, you will find that your twin needle was previously selected. So to continue to use a twin needle, select that back in the settings. That was not a setting that is going to be remembered. It is going to be a temporary setting. So come back in if you left your double needle in overnight and reselect it so it will be ready to use and you won't break it.